welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're tackling something I think a lot of people feel, that sense of being stuck, even when you feel like you're really pushing hard.
Right, that inertia. We're calling this our self-concept deep dive, really looking at how to get past that and hit peak performance.
Yeah, and we've got some interesting sources today. There's this live morning show talking about an unbreakable mindset.
And then Carl Winkler, he's a founder in sustainable tech, got some real-world grit there.
And also A.J. Zeglin, a mental performance coach, bringing the expert view.
It's a good mix. Practical stuff, different angles on breaking through those limits.
Exactly. The mission is, as always, pull out those useful nuggets, maybe some surprising things you can actually use, like today, without getting bogged down.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the morning show. It kicks off with the hosts, Keith and Jon, talking about something super relatable, that daily fight, right, between doing the hard thing you know you should do.
And just taking the easy route. Yeah, we've all been there, like hitting snooze maybe.
Totally. And they were sharing some mental tricks they used. Jon had this analogy about turning that resisting inner voice into like an actual fight you have to win.
Yeah, like an opponent.
Yeah.
Keith said he just attacks whatever he least feels like doing first.
Right. Which, for our listeners looking for that quick knowledge, it really underscores that mindset work is active. It's not passive. It's something you do in the moment.
Definitely sets the stage.
Then Keith went deeper, sharing his own story about building this unbreakable mindset. Now, this is where it gets interesting. It wasn't about, the trendy stuff like cold plunges or whatever. It was about embracing vulnerability, which is hard.
Really hard.
And actually reframing failure. Seeing it not as a dead end, but as a lesson. Plus, building real rituals.
Like what?
Things like morning reflection, journaling, consistent training, things that take effort.
So the takeaway is resilience isn't just there. It's a muscle you build. You train it.
Exactly. And Keith asked his audience, which I think is a great question for everyone listening, how could you start weaving these ideas in? What's one small ritual you could try? Even just starting small.
That's actionable. Okay, who's next? Carl Winkler.
Yeah, Carl Winkler, sustainable product guy, startup background, work at Keurig.
Okay.
But before the business stuff, he shared this really powerful personal story. He lost, I think, 65 pounds after his twin daughters were born.
Wow, okay.
And he talked about how that physical change really impacted his confidence at work, his whole view of himself.
That totally makes sense. That mind-body connection, it's real, and it speaks to how success isn't just one thing, right? It's multifaceted.
For sure. So, turning to his work, convincing investors about sustainable tech. That's got to be tough sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Greenwashing is everywhere.
Exactly. His point was, it can't be greenwashing. It has to be real, and you need to tell that story effectively.
The narrative matters,
Yes.
especially with investors.
He mentioned a previous company, Mobile, an ice cream thing, where the environmental angle just didn't click with the market back then.
Timing, maybe? Or the story wasn't quite right.
Could be. But then he points to his current startup, Commenter Coffee, using these 100% recyclable aluminum pods. Like a concrete example of doing it right.
Okay, so learning from experience. Good stuff.
But then he offered this pretty provocative view on corporate sustainability efforts.
Oh, how so?
He basically suggested a lot of it is driven by emotional decision-making, his words, not always hard science.
That's a strong take. Does he have an example?
Yeah, his own project. He's turning this old horse farm into a completely net zero house.
Whoa, that's a massive undertaking.
Right, and he pointed out it'll take like 7 years just to offset the carbon impact of the construction itself.
Wow. Okay, so that definitely contrasts with just, buying some carbon credits or putting up a solar panel and calling it done. It highlights the real long-term commitment needed.
Exactly. It's a counterpoint to the easy claims.
Okay, interesting perspective. What else from Carl?
He brought up this concept from his Keurig days. Shiny penny syndrome.
Shiny penny syndrome. Okay, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, it's getting distracted, right? Fixated on adding new little features.
Yeah.
He mentioned adding a clock, like right before the first Keurig launched.
Oh, man. Feature creep.
Yeah.
It derails everything. You lose sight of the core thing you're trying to do.
Totally. And it delays everything. Super relatable if you've ever tried to launch anything or even just finish a big project.
Absolutely. Been there.
Okay, so let's shift gears to A.J. Zeglin, the mental performance expert. This brings us to the core idea. Self-concept inertia.
Right. So breaking that down, what is it, essentially?
A.J. explains it as this psychological resistance we have to changing who we think we are, even if that identity is actually limiting us.
Like, we get comfortable in our own skin, even if the skin doesn't quite fit anymore, or maybe never did.
Kind of. He ties it to our brain wanting safety, wanting things to be predictable, familiar patterns. Plus, the pressure we feel from outside, what others expect.
And the host jumped in with examples, right?
Yeah, really concrete ones, like staying in a job you genuinely hate.
Or relationships that are just done,
Yeah.
but you stay.
Exactly. Or just being stuck in routines that feel draining, not energizing. That feeling of being stuck, but also being kind of scared to actually change anything.
Because familiar misery feels safer than unknown possibility sometimes.
That's a good way to put it.
And AJ's point about actions creating evidence is key here, isn't it?
Yeah, explain that a bit.
Well, if you keep acting like the stuck person, you're just gathering proof for your brain that says, see, this is who you are. You reinforce that identity.
Right. And Jon, on the morning show, made that point about deliberately seeking discomfort.
Making uncomfortable feel familiar, basically flipping the script on your brain's desire for safety.
Which connects back to Carl, right? Leaving a secure job for the uncertainty of startups. That's building new evidence. Massive evidence.
Exactly. Evidence of capability, resilience, adaptability. It actively changes that self-concept.
Now, Keith brought up something specific, maybe more for men, he thought. This feeling that to change, you have to blow the whole motherfucker up, just total destruction.
Yeah, I heard that. Dramatic.
But Jon had this counter idea. What if you just focus so intensely on your improvement, get so good, that the old world, the old job, the old situation just can't keep up?
So the change happens more organically because you've outgrown it, rather than you having to tear it all down. I like that. Less collateral damage.
Yeah, it feels more sustainable.
So why do people resist that internal change? AJ had a take on that too, right?
He did. He said, we often go for what seems like the easy path, which often means changing external things, new job, new city, new partner.
Instead of doing the harder internal work, the self-improvement.
Exactly. Because, as AJ put it, you're the common denominator in all your situations.
Oof. Truth bomb.
Right. So lasting change needs that internal shift. Effort, attitude, mindset.
It's less about changing the scenery and more about changing the traveler.
Well said. And they wrapped up that inertia segment with some really powerful messages. Stuff like, you're not broken, you're evolving.
I like that. Takes the pressure off perfection. What else?
Don't fear discomfort.
Yeah.
The darker it is, the closer you are to the light. That kind of thing.
Turning towards the challenge instead of running away.
Yeah. Stop running from it and start running to it. And even just starting small, like tuning into a show like that one, is a positive step.
Small steps build momentum. Okay, good stuff on inertia. What about the habits?
Right. The final bit. 5 winning habits of the world's top performers. Jon called them clues to success, which I liked.
Okay, clue number 1.
Master the mornings. Basically, start with intention before the day grabs you.
So meditation, exercise, journaling, goal setting, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Proactively setting your state, your focus, right from the get-go.
Makes sense. Sets the tone. Habit 2.
Embrace lifelong learning, continuous growth, always being a student.
Reading, listening, workshops, staying curious, like the hosts themselves, constantly digging into new ideas.
Totally. Habit 3, prioritize deep work.
Ah, the holy grail in our distracted world.
Yeah.
Focused, uninterrupted blocks of time.
Yeah. Clear goals for those sessions, minimizing distractions. Carl mentioned trust in teams, avoiding micromanagement so people can focus.
Right, creating the environment for deep work. Crucial. Okay, 4.
Build powerful networks. Success isn't solo. Intentionally cultivating relationships.
Mentors, supportive peers, communities. Even listening to shows like this can be part of building that positive influence network, Jon said.
Good point. And number 5, reflect and recharge.
This one gets overlooked so often. Rest isn't weakness.
Not at all. It's essential for sustained performance. Deliberate downtime, reflection, recovery.
Carl and Jon even mentioned naps and letting ideas just sort of ferment, giving them space.
Yeah, not forcing it all the time. So those are the 5. Mastering mornings, lifelong learning, deep work, networks, and recharge.
It's a solid list. And adopting them isn't just about, getting more done. It feels like it could really shift how you approach everything.
I think so. Which one jumps out at you or feels most needed right now? It's a good question to ask.
Definitely.
So, yeah, we've covered a lot today. Mindset tactics, digging into that feeling of being stuck,
Yeah.
self-concept inertia.
And then these really practical habits of high achievers. It all connects, doesn't it? The mindset helps break inertia. The habits provide the structure for ongoing growth.
Exactly. And Carl's stories kind of wove through it all, the personal transformation, the focus challenges, the sustainability angle. And our goal was just that. Pull out useful insights, keep it engaging, keep it moving.
I think we hit that.
So here's a final thought for everyone listening, kind of building on that change discussion.
Yeah.
Think about one small thing, some minor discomfort you tend to avoid.
Right.
What's one tiny step you could take towards it, not to blow everything up,
Right, not the demolition approach.
but just to gently nudge the edge of your comfort zone. See what happens. Maybe learn something new about what you're capable of.
That's a great practical takeaway. And maybe also reflect. Which of those 5 habits could you start, like, tomorrow? And is that self-concept inertia sneaking in anywhere you feel stuck?
Good prompts.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'd love to hear what resonated. Any thoughts, questions?
Yeah.
It's all part of that learning process we talked about.
Absolutely. Keep the conversation going.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure.
Until next time.